My name is Abigail Brueggemann. I'm a project manager at Lake Forest Hospital, which is part of the Northwestern Medicine healthcare system. I'm sitting today on our terrace, which is part of the new Lake Forest Hospital that opened in 2018. The terrace came to be through a generous donation via some donors who were very instrumental in asking that the hospital include areas for nature for both patients, families, and staff that would allow people to get out of the hospital and enjoy sort of nature. We're sitting near our pond edge that is facing a waterfall, and this terrace allows us the opportunity to have folks gather here together formally and informally, and gives a wonderful place for people to sit and reflect without being inside the hospital building.
So the usual steps with a custom project are actually really simple. Any of our customers can contact our sales team. Our sales team have some general guidelines that they'll use to find out more about the project and if it's something they think that would be a fit with Maglin. What they'll then do is link up the customer with our modified and original product team. And we're going to have a conversation. We're going to ask lots of questions, answer any questions that the customer has, find out what kind of design they're looking at. Do they have a concept that already exists, or are they looking for collaboration and to come up with a design with them? We're going to want to know what kind of materials that they're looking for, site installation timing. That's really important because custom projects generally take longer. So we need to know that we can fit it in within the timeline that the customer is looking for. We also want to know what the budget is. We want to make sure that we can make something that the customer is looking for within that cost.
So my involvement with the Amphitheater project, it sort of begins a little bit at the beginning, but with some conversation of our estimating departments and just taking a look at if this is something that we can build. But I get more heavily involved once the job has been won, and we start looking at how will we manufacture the product. So there's a lot of back and forth between the customer, the architect, and the contractors for doing the installation, trying to approve how we would like to build the product. And that seems to be, at times could be the most challenging, but when you have good contractors and a good customer that is willing to work with you, it makes it a lot easier. So my first involvement is that, getting the production design approved, and then from that point we go and produce the product, right? So,
my name is Han Zhang. I'm the landscape architect for O2 Design. We design and design manage the project for Amphitheater and Pond Edge Trail for Northwestern Lake Forest. My big inspiration for the design is actually coming from earlier on when we did the master plan for the new campus. So as people have visited the campus may notice, there is a very impressive water feature in front of the new building complex. And there is always this thought to create some sort of outdoor amenity to bring people close to the water. So I think this amphitheater project, thankfully for the donor and the hospital, we were able to complete the initial design goals by creating this amphitheater to get people really close to the water.
So a project like the amphitheater, it starts with a phone call, an email, and an idea. When Han first called, it was basically her describing what she was looking for, and then I essentially just asked a bunch of discovery questions to understand what exactly she was looking for and to visualize the end product for what she was looking for. From there, it was a matter of she sent me drawings, and then I basically took it to the design and engineering team, and asked if we could do it within the designated time frame and the budget that they were looking for. With custom projects, we've received everything from pencil sketch drawings on a napkin to full-blown CAD drawings and SketchUp files. So really, it's anything that the landscape architect's mind can come up with. We will always look at and see if we can make their vision a reality.
Maglin incorporated a custom division because our business model is basically directed at landscape architects. They're a creative group of people, and obviously they run into certain requirements where our standard products don't fit their needs. So, you know, over the years we get lots of custom requests, and we basically built a division that internally, that it's a team of people that actually have a set process, and they review all these requests and determine whether or not it fits Maglin's criteria.
Well, I think our approach to this project is basically the same around all the jobs that we do. We try to keep everything on schedule, keep everything, all of our customers and people involved happy. I think that works for a much better workplaces for everyone to be happy and work together. So it's basically to keep things in line, stay to the schedule, and make everybody money and happy is kind of the goal.
So this project was new to us. We haven't done an amphitheater before or anything as big as this. Now, there were a lot of similarities to standard product that we build and other original product. We're working with similar materials, thermally modified ash, stainless steel, mild steel that's been treated with e-coat and powder coat coatings. We also worked with similar processes. We build benches, so doing a tiered bench system and platform, you know, wasn't out of the ordinary for us. It was just on a bigger scale, and there were some specific design considerations that we had to take.
My main role is to make sure that we can produce the product, but we have different parties involved. We had a structural engineer involved. So it's not just what we can produce, it also has to meet the engineering requirements. We also have the challenge of meeting the aesthetical requirements of the end user. And then in that I take a look at our fabricators, what they can produce, how we can process the parts. We do all that. We also look at how it will be installed. So we want to have something that's not just manufacturable, but it's something that can also be installed. We also look at the things like transportation. Are we building it too big to transport it to site? Like, how will they handle it on site? So with that, we kind of go like in a circular process of looking at like what can we produce efficiently, cost effective, and also meet the quality requirements. And as you go around in the circle and you get all the parties happy, the contractor, the installer, the customer, and your fabricators, and then you're really ready to produce the production drawings for the job.
So I was involved with the project from concept to completion. The Maglin team, the design, engineering, and myself, we would have weekly conference calls with Bully and Andrews, who was the general contractor for the amphitheater. Just to ensure that we understood exactly where we were with the project and what needed to be done and when it needed to be done. So I didn't necessarily have to be involved with those conference calls, but I found it beneficial to be there on those phone calls to understand exactly at what point we were with the project and kind of what direction the project was going in. It really helped with, you know, if Han from O2 had a question, or Mark or AJ from Bully and Andrews had a question about, you know, what was happening with something, and one of the team members from design and engineering wasn't available that day, and they needed that answer as soon as possible, I was able to get that answer and relay it back to them rather than them waiting a few days or whatever the case was.
Over the years, Maglin's tested quite a few different materials, including woods. We've gone through quite a variety, but we've only found that there's basically 2 woods that meet our requirements in terms of the performance durability. So the 2 woods are actually Ipe and thermally modified ash. Ipe comes from South America, and then thermally modified ash is North American, and it's treated up in New Brunswick. My preference is actually the ash, just because of where it's sourced from, and also because it has more of a deep, rich grain.
Well, the materials used on this project were top of the line, if I could say. The structure you could probably land a helicopter on. There's helical piers that are driven into the ground. They're screwed into the ground. They're steel with a steel plate on top, and there's like 30 underneath this deck. And on top of those helicals, you have iron beams that run north and south, and then iron beams on top of those that run east and west. That makes the structure, and then the platform is actually screwed to those steel structures. So it's a super heavy-duty, long-lasting product.
So basically, the wood is harvested from the ash trees in North America, and then it's brought into a mill where it's actually cut down into smaller pieces, so the sizes that we need for this project. So we were working with basically nominal sizes of 2x4 and 2x6. So the entire platform was constructed with those sizes. So it's basically cut down into those segments, and then it's actually heat treated, which gives it its extra durability. So it actually brings up the hardness properties from the initial ash and makes it much more durable in comparison to something like Ipe, which is a very, very hard and dense wood.
So we were really lucky on this project to have a fantastic project team. Everybody who contributed, from the landscape architects through the construction folks, all did a really wonderful job executing on the project and providing a lot of fun, creative solutions. They worked together as a team. We did a lot of detail work with the manufacturer who made the terrace to get all of the pieces and parts exactly right. And it came out beautifully. So that speaks to great teamwork, and it speaks to a really fun project where everybody was able to collaborate.
You know, everyone involved with the project, they were extremely prompt, extremely quick with communication responses, phone calls, emails, whatever it took. O2 and Han, once again, extremely quick, extremely diligent with their answers, and you know, if we needed anything, we had our answer, usually within the same business day, so that we could move forward with what we needed to move forward with. AJ and Mark at Bully & Andrews, I can't say enough about that company and those guys. Hands down, the most organized general contractor I've ever dealt with in my life. You know, they were so detail oriented, and they knew exactly what was going on. They knew exactly what they needed. Yeah, again, their communication and how quickly they were able to respond to us when we needed a response, huge. It was, you know, it was a major success factor in this project.
The work relationship for this project is really great. Obviously, because of the COVID, there has been some challenges in communication and get all the partners on site. But we were able to work with Bully Anderson, the general contractor, and Maglin, the furniture custom designer and producer. We work very closely through Zoom calls, meetings, and emails. We were able to turn around design ideas very fast, and that's it was very appreciated considering this tough time.
The follow-up, once we were able to produce a product and have it assembled here and shipped out, we do leave ourselves open to communications with the installers on site. I think in this case, though, since we had so many conversations prior to sending it, I think it was fairly smooth. There wasn't a lot of questions on how to do what they needed to do. So.
So as well as having communication with the customer, we also have weekly communication and daily communication with our suppliers. So we're following up with them on a daily basis, making sure that they know what the deliverables are, making sure that they're on track. If they're having any issues, that they're communicating them to us, and that we can work as a team to solve them, and again keep on track with the schedule to the customer.
So our working relationships with the major stakeholders in this project, for me, my experience, it went quite well. We really took advantage of the Zoom media type of meetings. That becomes a really good thing for me because we have these SolidWorks models that we can share our screen. It really helps with communication tools and expressing different ideas. And I found that the major stakeholders were very receptive of the different ideas.
Well, with the schedule being what it is, we try to keep an open line with the owners with telephone and emails and actually site visits. We have a weekly meeting every week, and if we need to, we have further meetings or more often meetings if needed. But communication is always key to our projects, and we keep an open line all the time.
So there will be a domino effect if there's a problem at the very beginning with one of our, with a material supply, that's going to trickle down the whole schedule. So we need to solve those issues immediately, and that's through daily regular communication with our suppliers and making sure that they're clear on what the deliverables are.
So some of the engineering challenges, I think that's working with the installation crew. This platform was supported by helical piles, so we had to understand throughout this platform there's the helical piles, to what tolerance can they hold the location of those piles. That allowed us to address how we would attach to them. So that was one major engineering challenge where we had to come up with several different ways of doing it, but working with the installation team and the architect, we came up with a solution that worked. So that was probably one of the major challenges to begin with.
Working with a company like Maglin, we understand what the installation requirements are and also installation costs. So in this case, we dealt with a very large-scale project. Basically a huge amphitheater that was all bolted together on site. So we took into consideration, the type of trades that you would need on this type of project on site. And we were able to actually build this whole amphitheater in our factory and replicate the installation there. So everything was pre-fit. There was no wood cut on site. Everything was pre-fit to steel plates and just sent down in segments and bolted together like Lego with nuts and bolts. And it really, I think if you actually go down and see the platform, you can really see that in terms of how well constructed and how nice the final finish is. Because if you had to work with tradespeople on site and they had to cut the boards and everything else, you wouldn't get those really nice finishes that you would get when you actually do all the work in the factory.
Design challenges that were beyond after getting approval. I mean, this platform was a fairly large platform that sloped down a hill. It was pie-shaped, and so as you went up from the bottom of the platform, the length of the boards would get different. The parts would change. So one thing that we strive to do is create commonality within especially a large job like this, part commonality. But as we were going up the platform, naturally parts changed. So just, I guess a little fact, there was 1,500 boards that created this full platform. And out of those 1,500 boards, there was, I think 350 of them were unique boards. So one of the challenges is creating all those different parts and then producing them. And we have good fabricators though, and we work closely with them and keeping it organized, and it worked out for us.
Looking at potential risks would be working with the team and coming up what could possibly go wrong. So for an example would be, one of the things that we would do would be fit up. Fit up is super important because we want to make sure that all of the parts are going to come together, and when they're shipped to the site and need to be installed on site, or there's any type of assembly that needs to be done on site, we want to know that the customer is not going to have any issues once that product gets there.
So with a job like this and having so many unique parts, it was really important for us to create as many common sub-assemblies as possible. Also just taking advantage of drawings and bills of materials and upfront communication. It did allow for this job with so many unique parts to show up on site and still be understood.
If someone is looking to begin a custom project or take on a custom project, when you're looking to a fabricator, you definitely want to ask about previous projects that they've worked on, as well as references. Find out, what their capabilities are, what they've done in the past, and what kind of experience they have to ensure that they'd be able to carry through your project. Some of the things that you should be thinking about with a custom project at the beginning is budget. That's really important because what we can then do is design and work out the type of fabrication to be able to keep within cost. That way we're going to avoid having any disappointment by having to edit down or remove from the original design intention. If we can design it in and make it manufacturable from the start, that's a real bonus.
Advice that I could give for custom projects like this, one of the key elements is for us is really understanding what does the customer want. Sometimes they can have a proposed concept or design. Usually there's a reason behind that. If we can understand the reason behind that, then we could maybe even provide a better solution for it. The other key points I would say for our customers working with us is that open to the idea of the process of some change to what they've done to make it more manufacturable and have better quality features.
So sometimes our customers will come to us with a custom project and they're going to compare it to our standard product offerings and that type of pricing, and it's not the same. From the start, we have to put in initial design work. There's a lot of collaboration back and forth. Sometimes we're using different materials. We're not buying in the same volume, and we're not doing that repeated fabrication process where we're going to have a cut in cost from our suppliers. So we need our customers to understand that this is a one of a kind and there are going to be additional costs involved.
So the water is a very important part of the design in deciding the location. Earlier on, when we entered the design of the whole campus master plan, there is a 12-feet elevation drop from the building complex to the stormwater pond. And we try to utilize the elevation change, create this waterfall in front of the building complex. And there is a boardwalk. People can get outside the building to look at the upper level reflection pond. But there's always a lack of location for people to really sit down and relax, to look at the lower stormwater pond and look at the waterfall. So this amphitheater, the location was chosen because it provides this location for people really to walk along the pond and be able to sit down and look back at the hospital building complex and the waterfall.